Hello, Muslim friends in the world. Lightning tore across the night sky above Washington, D.C., casting ghostly reflections onto the dusty windows of Dr. Jonathan Reeves' cluttered office. Surrounded by stacks of ancient scrolls and unopened crates from Egypt, the renowned archaeologist sat frozen, eyes glued to the laptop screen in front of him. Subject: urgent. Discovery at Jiaguan, Western China. He opened the email. The attached photos made his breath catch. A half-collapsed stone tunnel. Strange, ancient carvings unlike anything he had ever seen. A hidden underground chamber uncovered by a landslide near one of the most remote stretches of the Great Wall of China, specifically in Gansu province. But what struck him most were the carvings. Hebrew and classical Arabic scripts side by side. An impossible combination in this part of the world. "This can't be right," he muttered, both awed and alarmed. As a guest professor at Harvard and senior consultant to UNESCO, Dr. Reeves had explored tombs in Africa, temples in the Amazon, and underwater ruins in the Mediterranean. But none of them had ever made the hairs on his neck stand like this. His hand moved automatically to the print button. The quiet hum of the printer was the only sound in the dimly lit room as thunder rumbled in the distance. He reread the message from Professor Liu, an old colleague from Lanzhou University. The tunnel opened after a massive landslide. Locals claim their ancestors were forbidden from approaching it, calling it the bed of the ever-living sage. "We need you here, John. This is bigger than anything we've found before." The bed of the ever-living sage. The name sounded more like something from an ancient prophecy than from a scientific report. Reeves closed his eyes. His last expedition in Iraq had nearly cost him his life. He had promised his wife he was done with fieldwork, that he would settle into a quiet academic life. But the feeling that gripped his chest now was different. This wasn't a professional opportunity. This was a calling. He turned to the world map pinned on his wall, tracing a line with his finger from Washington to China. His fingertips stopped at a small dot labeled Jiaguan, the westernmost gate of the Great Wall. Outside, the storm raged on. "Damn it! One more time," he whispered. He grabbed his phone and dialed his travel agent. "Get me a one-way ticket to Gansu, China. First flight out." Cold winds swept across the Jiaguan plains as the wheels of the plane touched down. From his window seat, Dr. Jonathan Reeves gazed out at the silent Gobi Mountains and the vast, coiling stretch of the Great Wall of China. A landscape that looked untouched by time, yet whispered secrets of civilizations long gone. Waiting for him outside the modest airport was a man with round glasses and a thick coat. "John." "Liu." Reeves smiled and embraced Professor Liu Wan, his old friend and a respected historian of Middle Eastern and Central Asian civilizations. Liu had been the bridge between East and West for years, fluent in forgotten dialects and ancient faiths. "The car's ready," Liu said, "but before we head to the site, there's someone who wants to meet you." Reeves raised an eyebrow. "Who?" "The site's guardian. Not an archaeologist, but a local man whose family has watched over the area for generations. His name is Imam Yusuf." They arrived in a tiny village called Little Dunhuang, just 10 kilometers from the western tip of the Great Wall. There, Reeves met a man with a calm gaze and a long white beard, sitting peacefully under an apricot tree. His turban was gray, his robe worn but clean. His posture was humble, but something in his presence was commanding, like a man used to listening more than speaking. "Dr. Reeves," he said in softly accented English, "you have come as written." Reeves frowned. "Written?" Imam Yusuf gave a gentle smile and handed him a small scroll made of ancient animal skin. Reeves carefully unrolled it. The script was Old Arabic, elegant and deliberate. When the seeker from the far land arrives with a heart yet unfilled, then shall the gate of truth open unto him. But he must be ready to lose all he knows to find what he truly seeks. Reeves blinked. Is this some kind of prophecy? It is a reminder, the Imam said, and a warning. By late afternoon, they reached the site, a narrow valley between two steep hills. The great wall loomed above like a sleeping stone dragon, casting shadows over a newly revealed crevice. The landslide uncovered this 2 weeks ago, Lou explained, pointing to a 3-meter-wide crack in the rock. It looked less like a collapse and more like the earth itself had split open. Reeves strapped on his headlamp and stepped into the darkness with a small team. The air was thick, earthy, cold, ancient. As they walked through the tunnel, Reeves noticed the walls were covered in strange carvings. Not only geometric patterns, but also celestial symbols. Stars, moons, suns, all converging toward a single direction. At the end of the tunnel stood a massive stone door, sealed shut. It was covered in inscriptions, Hebrew on the left, classical Arabic on the right, and in the center a small triangle that, from the right angle, looked unmistakably like a single eye. Reeves stepped forward, brushing dust from the carvings. The stone was cold, not just temperature cold, but spiritually cold, as if it had been waiting, watching. "This isn't a tomb," he whispered. "It's a temple." Lou looked at him sharply. "Or a prison for something the world was meant to forget." The chamber was unlike anything Dr. Jonathan Reeves had ever seen. Each step echoed across the high, dome-shaped ceiling, the silence so profound it pressed into the bones. His flashlight swept across walls adorned not just with carvings, but with sacred calligraphy, ancient Arabic inscriptions flowing across the stone like prayers whispered by time itself. "He who is protected by Allah does not sleep, nor dies. The patient servant who was chosen." Reeves read the inscription aloud, almost reverently. "Lou," he said softly, "this isn't just a tomb, it's a shrine." As they reached the heart of the chamber, the light fell upon the centerpiece. A long stone sarcophagus, crafted with geometric patterns so precise, so impossibly intricate, it seemed to defy the tools of the time. But it wasn't the sarcophagus that stole Reeves' breath. It was the name carved above it, bold, unwavering, etched in timeless Kufic script. Zulkifli, prophet of God, the one who endured in silence. His knees weakened. The name resonated in his memory, not from textbooks, but from whispers in obscure lectures, from passing conversations with Muslim scholars. Zulkifli, known in Islamic tradition as a prophet, a figure shrouded in mystery, often equated with the biblical Ezekiel, yet spoken of with unique reverence in Islam. This can't be," Reeves murmured. "Or perhaps," said a calm voice behind him, "this is exactly where the truth has waited." Imam Yusuf stood at the threshold of the chamber, his voice barely a whisper but heavy with meaning. "You think all prophets came from the West? That they only walked deserts known to modern maps?" He stepped closer. "Truth is not bound by geography, nor is God." Reeves stared at the sarcophagus. His hands trembled as he slowly knelt, reaching toward its smooth surface. And then it happened, a vibration, subtle, deep, as if the stone had acknowledged him. A small compartment at the base of the sarcophagus slid open. Within it lay a scroll, aged and worn, its leather cracked by centuries. Reeves unrolled it gently. There, illuminated by the beam of his headlamp, were verses, flowing, poetic, almost alive. "To the seeker from afar, the truth shall be shown as rain from the skies. But he must abandon all that he clings to truly receive it." His breath caught. He read it again, then again. And then something inside him, something long dormant, broke free. Tears welled in his eyes, not from fear, but from something deeper. Peace. A strange, unfamiliar stillness that silenced the noise of years. It was as if the very walls were whispering to him. Not in English, not in Arabic, but in a language only the soul could understand. He wept. Lou touched his shoulder gently. "John, are you all right?" Reeves nodded, blinking away tears. He looked at Lou, not as a scientist, but as a man who had seen something holy. "This isn't just a discovery," he said softly. "It's a message." As they left the chamber, Imam Yusuf turned to Reeves with a quiet smile and said only one thing. "Sometimes what we call a discovery is simply a calling home." And for the first time in his life, Reeves felt he might have finally arrived. A week had passed since the discovery, and the once-forgotten valley near Little Dunhuang had transformed into a global epicenter. Rows of media tents lined the hillsides. Satellite vans, drones, reporters with flak jackets. It looked more like a war zone than an archaeological site. Representatives from BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN, NHK, and Russia Today jostled for position outside the heavily guarded excavation area. At the center of the storm sat Dr. Jonathan Reeves, hunched in a folding chair beside the entrance to the tomb. His eyes were sunken, not from fatigue, but from conflict, the kind that tore silently through the soul. "This is getting out of hand," he murmured to Professor Liu, who was fielding calls non-stop. "They want interviews. Egypt's Grand Mufti wants to visit. Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Culture is sending scholars. The Vatican has requested official samples of the scrolls." Liu reported in rapid-fire Mandarin-accented English, "And National Geographic wants an exclusive." Reeves didn't respond. His gaze was fixed on the dark mouth of the tomb, the place that had shaken him to his core. Inside that stone corridor, he hadn't just found history. He had found a truth that refused to stay buried. That night, alone in his tent, Reeves sat with the scroll again. The leather was cracked, the ink faded, but the words pulsed like a living thing. He read the line over and over. "To the one who finds truth, his life shall never remain the same." His thoughts drifted back to his childhood in a small Baptist church in Texas. The hymns, the sermons, the slow erosion of his faith when the questions became too big and the answers too shallow. He had buried that spiritual hunger beneath decades of research, digs, and discoveries. But now, something in him was no longer silent. The next day, the press conference began. Dozens of microphones, a sea of cameras, questions ready to fly like arrows. Reeves stood at the podium, holding notes he didn't need. He glanced at the crowd, faces hungry for drama, for scandal, for confirmation of the impossible. He spoke slowly, choosing every word with care. "This discovery is not just archaeological. It's not just a tomb. It is a spiritual doorway." Silence. Even the cameras seemed to pause. "I am not a religious man," he continued, "but I believe what we've found here is not random. The inscriptions, the preserved texts, they name a prophet revered in Islam, Zulkifli." A murmur rippled through the crowd. His teachings speak of patience, justice, and submission to the Creator. And the messages within the tomb are not myth. They are clear, intact, powerful. A journalist from Al Jazeera raised her hand. "Dr. Reeves, do you believe this is truly the tomb of a prophet?" Reeves paused. His heart pounded. "I can't prove it by scientific means," he said. "But as a man, as someone who stood before it and felt something greater, I believe yes, it is." More questions erupted. "Are you considering converting to Islam? What does the American government say? Is this recognized by religious authorities?" Reeves lifted his hand gently. "All I know," he said, "is that truth does not belong to any one nation, religion, or race. Truth is like light. It shines where it wills. And for those willing to see it, it can change everything. That night, in the quiet of his tent, Imam Yusuf joined him. They sat in silence, sharing tea. No cameras, no microphones. "Do you know why the scroll called you?" the Imam asked. Reeves looked up. "Because I was looking for something." "No," said Yusuf with a faint smile. "Because deep down you already knew it." Reeves didn't reply, but he knew the answer, and he was almost ready to say it out loud.